What's up, my fellow Michiganians, Michiganders, whatever you happen to call yourselves? Welcome to Wolverine State Sports Talk, and I just got to say something. The media is overreacting to this Eagles loss, and a lot of the fan base is too. Listen, I don't care what happened 20 years ago, how long you've been a fan of this team. Dan Campbell is in his second year of a head coach. Brad Holmes is in his second year as general manager. Sheila Ford is now the owner of this team. And whatever happened for the past 50 years before these guys were in here, yes, it's unfortunate. But I'm sick and tired of SOL, blah, blah, blah. You know what SOL is? The Lions win this game, they go 10-7 and lose in the wild card. And then they can't build anything. And they continue to draft poorly. That's SOL. But it's just a complete overreaction. I gotta say, I'm very disappointed in Mike Valenti's take. To me, it sounds very hypocritical for what he was saying 2 years ago, and I'll explain that in a second. But let me play the audio clip and stop it as it goes along.
Not even the Rocky IV music can cheer me up. David, ticket text, we get to you, the people. I'll say it again, I'll say it all day. The fans were incredible yesterday, and again, this team fails to deliver. Dan Campbell thing, you guys can do whatever you like. I don't have to love the wrestling persona in order to respect his ability to coach. An out stoppage and more time. Maybe they have plays differently. It's a bad job of clock management. And the onside kick is just...
There's no point of ever kicking an onside kick unless you are desperate and it's the final five.
Right.
Get them.
I gotta say this: when you give up 24 points in the fourth quarter, and then you give up what? How much did they give up in the third quarter? It was like 14 points. So in just a few minutes of football, you gave up that many points. I know one of them was off a pick six, but still, the point remains. Your defense wasn't stopping them. Literally, Aaron Glenn, I was literally clenching my fists, clenching my toes, so that we could stop them. We were not stopping them. Now, I'll forgive him for this because the conventional wisdom is yes, you kick the ball deep, and the onside kick percentage, while it's not as low as they try to make it here, is still not very high. But still, I also understand what Campbell was thinking. If we're not going to stop him anyway, might as well try to shock him with an onside kick. And these are the sort of things you have to do when you're the underdog. And you're going to hear me say it even more about us being an underdog and having less talent than this team. You got to make remarkable plays like that, and you got to take chances. It's just reality. But let's keep watching.
You're gonna get it's less than 10% now that you get the onside kick. It's the final 5 seconds of the game, and you have
not 100% true. They changed the rules for the onside kick, so now it's around 18%, and then it's a surprise onside kick as well, so that increases the percentage as well. Not quite as low as these guys are saying, but still, there definitely is a better chance that you kick the ball off deep. But is there a better chance you stop them? Because we've been stopping in the past few drives. That's just reality. When you have to do a zero blitz to stop the other team, I don't think that makes your defensive coordinator very comfortable. So say, well, let's get the ball back, and if we're not going to stop them, we might as well take our chances to get it back.
Have to get the ball back. Other than that, you're better off lining up, playing defense.
David, what do you got, bud?
And giving up 31 points and giving up over 200 yards rushing. Yeah, you're much better off doing that.
Mike is so angry, LOL. There was stuff to fix for sure, but Philly has by far more talent than the Lions, and that matters sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes. It definitely matters. And if you didn't know that Philly had much more talent, you just didn't do your research. You did not do your research, and I wrote an article before this game. I did not expect the Lions to win this game. The Eagles are a much more talented team. They made the playoffs last year, and they added A.J. Brown. And, oh yeah, they have so much more talent, which I'll get to later. But if you didn't know that Philly had much more talent, you just didn't do your research. If you don't think that that matters all the time, it absolutely matters all the time. It's delusion and really some hypocrisy from Mike Valenti that you're about to see here.
I'm going to try this one more time. Just so we're all on the same page. DGAF. You have a chance to win a game. Win it. Stop falling behind by a million. Stop needing furious rallies. Stop with the mistakes. Stop having nonsense. Stop mismanaging the clock. Stop on critical downs. Losing contain on a quarterback ready for it who primarily can't hurt you with his arm.
All right, I kind of agree with that, kind of don't agree with that. I think that's one thing we did a terrible job of was containment. But you know what? That's young guys right there. And that's guys that aren't that talented either. Hutchinson being the young guy, Austin Bryant is decent, and Harris are decent, but are they going to contain Jalen Hurts? Probably not. I didn't think we schemed very well for that, so I will give them some brownie points for that. But talking about you have a chance to win the game, that should be looked at as a positive when you're playing a team that's much more talented than you. But let's carry onward.
Because that's what I don't want to hear this because
So tired of
everybody
this.
told me Jalen Hurts. Oh, I don't know how he has a job. He was a lower tier quarterback.
Well, whoever said that has a very low football IQ. Because Jalen Hurts, was he amazing? No. But was he terrible? No, not at all. One of the best rushing quarterbacks in the league and put up decent passing numbers, not amazing. But you also take into consideration that, well, now he's got A.J. Brown on his side. He's got Devontae Smith in his second year. He's got some more talent around him. So, yeah, he's going to look a lot better. That shouldn't be a surprise. If you objectively think about football instead of listening to these slappies. I don't care what our fans had to say, or some of our fans, saying that he stinks. You know what? The fans didn't watch Philadelphia all season. They listened to what the slappies say instead of objectively watching the game. Jalen Hurts is not an amazing quarterback. He's not a terrible quarterback. He's somewhere in the middle, and I think he's on the trajectory to get better. And that's just objective.
He's not in the top. He's not in the middle. He's at the bottom to most people.
Rico, most of these people today, the same people were making fun of Jalen Hurts before the game are lubing him post-game.
Right.
So wait, you're going to criticize Dan Campbell because of what a few dumb fans had to say? A few uneducated fans?
That's what, like,
Acting like, oh my God, he's Steve Young.
what are we doing? Like, when did he become all of a sudden this great player? And you just got to give props. The Eagles are a better team. He runs he runs Tecmo Bowl plays. He's got 8 plays he goes out there with. And you know,
Well, if they ran 8 plays, maybe that's because they were much more talented than us. They didn't have to out-scheme us. You know what? If your tackles are getting blown back, your tackles are getting blown back. And no one is saying that Jalen Hurts is Steve Young. I haven't heard anyone say that. What I've heard people say is the Eagles have the best offensive line in the league, which is true. One of the best, at least. Lane Johnson's arguably the best tackle in the game. Same with Maliata and Jason and Kelsey at center. That is objectively one of the best lines in the league. You added A.J. Brown, who is a top 10 receiver talent. You have Devontae Smith, who is a really good talent at receiver. You have Dallas Goedert, who is probably the second best tight end in the NFC. If you don't think that this offense wasn't super talented, you just didn't do your research. And if you didn't think that this was going to be a horrible matchup for our defense, again, you did not do your research. So I knew this before the game. And now you guys are acting surprised that that's the fact after the game. So is it the fact? Or is it that people are, suddenly changing their opinions about it? Like, oh my gosh, now. Anyone that knows a lick about football knew that before the game. If you guys didn't know that, you didn't do your research, period.
you know what? He beat you with 8 plays. It wasn't a complicated offense. Well, David, it was first downs, second and long. It was third and long. It was him running up the middle. Wash, rinse, repeat, David.
Thanks, Mike. Rico, I've been pissed all day and having to hear about all the reasons why it's okay we lost.
It's not okay.
No, it's not.
I mean, this is where it gets weird. You are trying to win every game, and I want to win every game, for sure. I'm not happy we lost. Is it okay that we... Now, this is I want to word this correctly. Is it the end of the world that we lost to a team that we should have lost to, that we were supposed to lose to? Absolutely not. This is not a fireable offense for Dan Campbell at all. And when you say, no, it's not okay, you kind of sound like you're putting him on the hot seat when in reality it's way too early. That's a complete overreaction.
Not must beat Washington or it's tanking time.
No, I don't.
I do agree we need to beat Washington next week. I think we're the more talented team, so I'll give them that.
But I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not. I can't do these shows like that. I can't even mentally go there. Guys, what I wanted was to come on the air 1-0, massive excitement. I wanted the fans who took their time and their money, who went down there to get the payoff, and I wanted to be sitting here with a real opportunity to go 2-0, be a little bit of a story in the league, and we really get some vibes going, okay? That's what I wanted.
Because the
You know
fans,
why?
Fans
You know
did their
why?
job.
Because it's the NFL. This is what you do.
All right, mister, this is the NFL. You know what you wanted this team to do? Actually, 2 years ago, here's what you said you wanted this team to do. Let me give you some history on Mike Valenti. Here's what he said. I want to trade Matt Stafford. I want a complete roster rehaul. And now we're rebuilding, and I'm happy we're rebuilding. But now all of a sudden it's, oh my gosh, we need to win every game. So let me get this straight. You expect a complete roster rebuild, and I mean literally almost the entire roster. You took Jared Goff's contract and got those first-round picks for a reason, because you're punting for the future. You got rid of Kenny Galladay. You got rid of Marvin Jones. You got rid of almost everybody for this reason. You got rid of Trey Flowers, Desmond Trufant for this reason, so that you could rebuild and eventually build a winner. But now all of a sudden that we're not winning games, now this is the NFL! Actually, you know what the NFL is? The NFL is what you've been saying. You say it's all about winning. And you're advocating for the team to tank. You're advocating for the team to trade players and invest in the future. So you can't have it both ways. I'm sorry, Mike. If you expected this team to win, you drank the Kool-Aid. Now, look, I was excited about this team making progress. Nowhere did I expect this team to win this game, and it's a complete lack of research. If you didn't think Philadelphia was by far the more talented team, you did not do your research before the game. And it makes perfect sense. They're coming off a playoff streak and made some great free agent signings in Bradbury, Brown, and returns some of the most talented players in the league at their respective positions. So, yeah. That makes sense that they're more talented than a team in year 2 of a rebuild. But you can't call for a complete rebuild and then say, this is the NFL, it's about winning games! If it's about rebuilding, then your expectations are unrealistic. And I'm sorry, yet again, this is not rookie mode Madden. This is reality. The Lions had to flip over their whole roster. That's why Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes were given a 6-year deal. This was supposed to be a complete roster rebuild. And last year you were talking about how far off this team was. But then you drink the Kool-Aid, bought into all the hype, and now all of a sudden you're upset. Mike Valenti took a complete 180 here. And he sounds like a big hypocrite. You can't have it both ways. Either you're rebuilding the roster, or we can do what you want and say, this is the NFL! And re-sign Matt Stafford, and re-sign Desmond Trufant, re-sign Marvin Jones, so that we can go 9-7, sneak into the playoffs, losing the wild card, stick in mediocrity, and do what we've been doing for the past 10 years. That's what he wants, apparently. I mean, that's what he expects. That's what I meant to say. He expects. Of course, we want to win every game. I'm not happy we lost, but to expect to win this game means you drank the Kool-Aid, you did not do your research, and you do have no understanding of how football or a rebuild work. And it feels kind of dishonest because I think that Mike does understand how this works. Let's keep watching.
Fans did their job yesterday.
Hey, if the Giants don't get the 2-point conversion yesterday or Randy Bullock makes the field goal, am I going, hey, Dable, pretty good debut? No!
Well, the difference is the Giants do not have to rebuild their entire roster. They have their franchise quarterback. They have Saquon Barkley. So, yeah, there's a lot of pressure on these guys. It's not the same situation at all. That's a bad comparison versus a team that is a complete project, does not have a complete roster by any stretch of the imagination, is committed to a rebuild, whereas the Giants have not said that yet.
Give it a little time, Mike.
No,
It'll
you
be
win or
good
lose.
enough.
Yes, you do give it time because you said this team was supposed to rebuild. You can't flip an entire roster in 2 seasons. You just can't. And you say, oh, it's winning and winning. Then stop calling on these teams to tank when they're not supposed to win, or quote unquote. So what is it? Is it we have to win every game, or we just have to win? I don't know. I don't even know where to go with this. Yes, I want to win the football game, but I understand it's year 2 of a rebuild. It's just he doesn't I think he gets it, but he's trying to stir up the fans.
Win or lose. That's it. That's it.
Right.
I'm tired of operating in the middle.
Well, if you're tired of operating in the middle, then maybe you shouldn't have called for Stafford to get traded, and maybe we could get those 9-7, 10-6 teams that you wanted to lose in the first round of the wild card, so that we can win this first game of the season and then have a forgettable playoff run. Because that's what we've been doing. Sorry that we're not doing it again, and now you're upset. The grass is always greener, eh?
Oh, well, they tried hard. What is this, youth soccer?
No, it's the bar that's here in this city.
Yeah.
That is not the bar that's here. That's complete BS. Because you know why? Since 2009, the Lions have not been on a rebuilding trajectory. The Lions have been on a building trajectory for the past 10 years. Before Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes took the job. Nobody was happy that we almost beat Dallas in 2014 in the playoffs. I'm still livid about that game. Livid about the call. Livid about Stafford choking in that game. Livid about our offensive line not stepping up. I'm still livid. I'm livid about every single game we lost those years because we were not rebuilding. We had an established team with plenty of talent. Jim Caldwell, Matt Patricia, there's a reason there were expectations for them. And there's going to be expectations for Campbell and Holmes, but this is not the time yet. It does not fit the window yet. This is like getting mad at Jim Schwartz for losing his first 2 years. Yeah, you know what? Because his roster sucked. His roster absolutely blew. So we knew it was going to take some time. Then he screwed up in year 5, and that was where it was unacceptable. But, man, that has not been the standard of this town. Remember 9-7 is not good enough? Remember that? It's been the standard the past 2 years because the fans are smart enough to realize this needed to happen if we were going to get rid of Stafford and move on, that we were going to have to do a complete rebuild, and it's going to take some time to get a complete roster. And no GM ever hits on every single draft pick. And we knew that we were going to be stretched with the cap for the next couple of years. So, you know what? This is what we have. We got to deal with this filler product right now, although it's much more talented than last year. This is a filler product, and eventually we're going to get better players on both sides of the ball. So you can't complain about not win. You can't call for a complete rebuild and then complain about not winning and then say, "Oh, we've always accepted barely losing." I have not accepted a Lions loss from 2010 to 2021 because we were supposed to be a building team with a franchise quarterback. We don't have that right now, so it's different.
Yeah, Moral Victory Village. Come on down. We got great new rates. Help you design your own little hut in Victory Village. Let's go to Shane.
You know, no one's happy that we lost, but at the same time, you guys overreacting about a week-long loss does not make you look any better. Especially, I've said it a billion times, we're on a rebuilding team.
And TC, what's up, Shane?
Mike, Rico, what's happening?
Hey, Shay.
I kind of feel like watching that game, the way that Dan Campbell called it yesterday was similar to how I play Madden with my 15-year-old nephew. I'm not gonna harp on the obvious clock management and the onside kick. He does stupid stuff like that all the time. What he also does is he will start the game off and he will just be phenomenal and have some drive that just blows my mind like the Lions did. And then he will go into some mode where the next 3 or 4 times he gets the ball, he goes completely away from that and just does bonehead things. Our strength right now is our running game. DeAndre Swift proved that. He was completely just invisible from after that first touchdown until later in the second quarter there. I was looking at the game stats here, and why is Jamal Williams getting all these touches instead of Swift there? If they could have pieced together one small drive,
can I give you an answer?
Because I got one too.
Well, you go first.
Sorry, this is the NFL, like Mike Valenti said, and you need to have a balanced attack to win this game. Now, nobody was getting open. That stinks, but to say that we shouldn't be running, we should be running Swift into the ground every game is completely ridiculous.
I wonder how much the Lions, in the back of their mind, whether they want to admit it or not, they need to keep Swift healthy. And it's almost like he's on a pitch count.
I hear you, Rico. I get that too. Yeah.
Shane, I think you know what I think of DeAndre. He's my godson. I'm a huge fan of his. I think he can be a top 3 back. I think Rico nailed this. He's not going to be a bell cow. He's not going to have 400 touches. It is something where they've got to preserve him.
But Mike,
Okay, I
when you,
agree,
hold on,
Mike,
Shane.
but
Wait, real quick. But when he is running that way,
I know.
you ball up that paper and you throw it out the window and you say until the wheels fall off. Yeah.
All right, whatever machoism you want to use here, whatever the heck you want to say. You guys criticized Dan Campbell for not being analytical, but now you want him to be a meathead and say, run the ball 40 times. Get hurt. This is what doesn't make any sense to me. What do you want him to be? Do you want him to be Mr. Analytical? Do you want him to be a meathead? What do you want him to be? And I'm sorry, you guys have never called offensive plays, and I know this playing this sport for a long time. You got to have a balanced attack in the NFL. That's reality. And if you think that Philadelphia wasn't going to load up the box with Jordan Davis and all them boys, then you don't understand coaching adjustments. Yes, I would have liked to have seen us break off a few more runs, but you know what? Got to be able to throw the football, and Jared Goff's first half play was unacceptable. But you can't blame the coaches for that. That was on Goff missing open throws, receivers dropping balls. That's not coach's fault. That was us being slow and sluggish, but eventually we picked it up, so I'll give us that.
You know what, Ben Johnson? Until the wheels fall off, I want to see him on the field, unless he just ran it 80 yards and he needs a quick blow. Other than that, it's just Swift.
And then he gets hurt after week 1, and we have 16 weeks without one of the best running backs in the league, and we're all complaining that he gave him too many carries. Hindsight. All these guys are is hindsight. That's all it is.
yes, guys, I agree. But what about having him in there as some sort of decoy, play action, something along that fashion that makes the defense have to cheat and watch him while giving other guys opportunities?
I think there's merit to it.
I agree with that, but I think that at the same time we scored 35 points and did fine offensively. And yes, there's still a lot we can build off of, for sure. But I will say that is fair criticism, that we probably could have used him a little bit differently, but I guarantee you they're looking at that in film.
Shane, I think there's merit to what you're saying. I'm not arguing. I was trying to, I don't like the answer I'm giving you, but I'm trying to offer you what I think it is. But you're not wrong.
I appreciate that. I'm just hoping that out of one of those, what was it, 4 3-0, 3 3-0, that if they could somehow squeeze the field goals and put all the other other side guys at the end of regulation were tied and we got a shot to win or something. I don't know. There was way too much left on the table there. This one should have been a victory.
Right.
That's all there is.
And Shane, that's
Yeah, being down 17 points against one of the best teams in the NFC, yeah, that should have been a victory. Again, whatever you thought the Eagles were with Doug Peterson, this is not the same team. If you didn't know that, you didn't do your research. That simple.
exactly how I feel. And now I guess part of my anger is I admit it. Like, this is what I do for a living, and I don't want to have an angry season. I don't want to be upset at this team. I don't want to do those shows. Because I do think the NFC's wide open. Because I do think you guys are going to start to realize a lot of what I was saying preseason is true. And no,
You think with this defensive personnel that we have a chance to win the NFC? No.
I don't think this team's capable of winning said NFC. But outside of the Buffalo Bills, I don't see teams on your schedule where I go, no shot.
You got a lot.
I mean, the Dolphins are pretty darn good. I will say now that the Patriots might not be who we thought they were, and now that the Cowboys have Cooper Rush starting against us, I think you can say that. But Green Bay's still Green Bay. Minnesota's still far more talented than us. So those are going to be tough games. That's just reality.
A lot of 50-50 games.
We're going to win games because we have a weak schedule. That's just it. And this is completely uneducated, what they say very soon. Wait, let me rewind that.
No shot.
You got a lot of 50-50 games. And this was one.
This was not a 50-50 game. No, it wasn't. Again, that is a complete lie. If you asked 20 football experts who they thought would win this game, everyone would have said Philadelphia. Everyone. Anyone who objectively looked at the rosters, who looked at what Pro Football Focus graded these players at, who looked at the matchups, said Philadelphia was easily the better football team. And I I said this. I wrote this in an article. This was not a game that we had a great chance of winning. So, no, this is actually one of the toughest games on the schedule. Again, best offensive line in the league in Philadelphia, elite wide receiving core, a quarterback who's super fast and can make explosive plays happen. And boy, I'll tell you what, that one dime to A.J. Brown was a thing of beauty. It wasn't even that bad a coverage by Will Harris. It was just a great throw. I think, and then you got a defense that added Bradbury, that added that linebacker from San Diego. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but that was a great signing. They drafted Jordan Davis. They drafted Nakobe Dean. Like, this team is going to win the NFC East. This is the most talented team in the East, especially with Dak Prescott going down for the Cowboys. This should be the Eagles' year, honestly. And really, they could win the NFC. So, no, Mike, a team in year 2 of a rebuild is not going to beat a team that made the playoffs last year and added tons of talent. And I want to say, they were only 9-8. Well, they were 9-8 because they didn't have A.J. Brown. They didn't have great receivers, but they added him. So, this team is different. And, again, that's just a lazy research right there. This was not a 50-50 game at all. We were able to make it a 50-50 game by climbing back into the game, but apparently that's not enough for you in year 2 of a rebuild. Now, if it's year 5 and we're losing games like this, then yeah. Then it's time to get upset and say, man, we really can't win big games. But we're not winning these games because we're not talented enough, not because, we're incompetent or something like that. It's just reality. We have a lot of UDFAs on the defensive line and the linebacking core, or late draft picks that are young, inexperienced, and probably not that good, except for Rodrigo. It's a filler product because we decided to add draft capital, but at the same time tie up in free agency by releasing Flowers, Trufant, and then obviously adding Jared Goff. That's the decision that we made, so we got to stick with it.
This was one that you needed in your pocket for when you messed up and lost one. But yeah, now the NFL, and it's not us saying, being negative, but yeah, statistics say if you go 0-2, you're not making the playoff.
Yeah, and we should expect to win next week because the Commanders are not a great team, but the Eagles are. So if we lose next week, then we can be a little bit more upset and talking with this kind of tone. But after week 1, that makes absolutely no sense.
I'm tired of them doing just enough.
I think the Cowboys were the last team to pull something like that off. The Emmitt Smith Cowboys.
To do what?
Go start off 0-2.
I mean, the Lions started 1-3 in 2016 and then made the postseason. I don't know. I feel like that's even a worse situation. I've seen much crazier things happen.
It's just a recipe for disaster. And look,
But that's the thing. You expect this team to make a deep playoff run. You drank the Kool-Aid. I'm sorry. You bought into the offseason hype. And I knew this was an improved team, but nowhere did I ever think that this team was going to be great. And I warned fans of this. I warned everybody that be excited for the improvement, but don't drink the Kool-Aid yet. This team's not ready to compete for a postseason spot. And they will compete for one just because the schedule is weak, but not because they're actually good enough yet. Yet is the key word. That's the key. Is once we get a complete roster, we get some cornerstone pieces, then we can sign some big free agents and start to commit to winning football. But for right now, we're committed to development, which we're doing a great job of. And if you don't like that, then I'm sorry. You shouldn't have been calling for Matt Stafford to get traded and Quintricia to get fired and blowing everything up.
if you've lost to Philly and you've lost to the Commanders, what right do I have to believe you're going to be different? You know, like those. Oh, by the way, those are 2 home games. Meaning, you cannot wait.
I didn't think this team was different. I didn't drink the Kool-Aid you guys did.
What those fans gave you yesterday. The fans provided a playoff atmosphere, and you handed them a participation trophy. Again.
Yep.
It's the greatest gig in the world. It really is, because you really don't have to do anything, and these fans will apologize up until the day you do.
That is completely, again, that's not accurate of the past 10 years. Nobody was happy with the moral victories when we had a franchise quarterback. They understand the situation of a rebuild. It's that simple. We're not as dumb as you think, Mike.
Oh, yeah. Hey, is this your first day in Detroit, Mike? Welcome. I'll take you to go get a Coney.
No, but I'm not going to lower. I'm not going to become one of these people. I'm not going to change my standards.
Well, you already did because you called for a complete rebuild 2 years ago, which was inevitably going to put us in this situation. So, yeah, you kind of did change your stance. And you also say it's about winning, but you advocate for tanking as well. So, this doesn't make any sense to me.
I get you. That New Yorker.
Yeah, there it is. Oh, you're so mean. Hey, coming up next, totally mediocre radio. But we tried. That's the equivalent of what the Lions give you. Boomer.
Yeah, man, going up against a radio, against a microphone is totally different than going up against 300-pound guys. I don't care if you're making millions of dollars or not. Guess what? They are too. And it's just reality that they're more talented than us. This is not Madden rookie mode like you want it to be. I'm sorry.
Hey, Gary and Richard. We'll do totally boring and average topics. Oh.
All right, that's enough for me. My point is that I'm not happy about the loss. Don't get it twisted. I was not happy at all. But I was more sad than I was disappointed because I expected us to lose this game. That's anyone who read my articles, saw my matchup preview, which these guys clearly didn't do, knew that this was going to happen. Now look, if it's next year or the year after that and we're losing games like this, then the moral victories are off the table because we should have a better football team and the expectations should change. But we knew we were signing up for this with a long-term rebuild, and you can't backtrack and say that you hope to win these games. You know what? If you wanted to win these kind of games and sneak into the wild card, you keep Matt Stafford and you keep building your plan around that. But we decided not to go that route. No one complained about it, but now all of a sudden we're complaining about not winning games. It goes back to what I warned everyone about. Don't drink the Kool-Aid yet. This team's not ready to compete. They're going to be in the running because the schedule's so easy. But this team is not ready. And they are not one of the better teams in the NFC. They just happen to be better than a lot of the teams on their schedule because they're facing a lot of bottom 20 teams. So everyone's got to calm down a little bit. And we need to beat the teams that we're supposed to beat, yes. But this is a complete overreaction and really makes Mike Valenti look a little bit hypocritical in my opinion. So that's just me. But we do need to win next week. That's going to be an important game. Got to win the games that we're supposed to win. We were not supposed to win this week. We are supposed to win next week. I predicted us to win, and I think we're the better team on paper. So that's that. All right. Thank you all for watching. Go Lions, and have a good night.